I'm Nana Farika. The time has come for the lioness to tell her story from her viewpoint and tell the world who Queen Omega is. This is the lion's voice.
Well, lion voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion voice. The poor man working for the rich man. Rich man don't care about the poor, but look along the rich man own the poor man land. The poor say him can't take it no more, but look along the poor man working for the rich man. Rich man don't care about the poor, but look along the rich man own the poor man land. The poor say him can't take it no more. One day he started chanting, give me some land. Want get some land. Wanna build my own house, be my own man then. Give me some land. Want get some land. I wanna raise some little baby with a pretty black woman. Dirty Babylon, them want to stop the movement. Stop the family, them bring down unemployment. Them want the black woman become a single parent. No daddy can about if Babylon not pay your rent. Without the Vatican servants start the enslavement. Buckingham get rich off of the slave shipment. Uncle Sam no want no reparation argument. Them just provide opportunities for prison sentence. Who profits from a whole community's imprisonment? This a big man up at top account him dollars and cents.
What do you have to tell the people about Ras Tafari?
Light to the world. The king of kings and the conquering line of the tribe of Judah. And left himself virtual ruler. Hey yo, yeah. Hear them high, hear the black king on the 23rd of July. So tell them guy who praise God up in the sky, it's a lie. The Almighty living on your night. From ancient time them a try. Them Romans know them just open them suit and ties. Criminals ain't got no alibi, they stole my people. Then them comes without them genocide.
Are you talking about slavery?
Them couldn't kill. The lion will come conquer Judah tribe.
Who?
Go through tribulation, and I strive, see sufferation, and I still rise. That's why we tell them in America, live Rastafari in every ghetto area. We come if we tell them in a Toronto, straight at Greetings in that divine name of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie I. Glory and honor in the name of his chosen queen, Empress Waziri Menen. My name is Kwasi Bansu, aka the Chasmach Kwasi, aka Ras Kwasi, aka the Reading Ras, aka the Pan-African Happy Man. I'm a creative industry attorney, I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an actionist, and right now I'm the host of the Lion Voice. Welcome to the Lion Voice Network. And welcome to Lion Talk Live, where we bring frontline workers from the vineyard of Rastafari from the four corners of the earth. We bring the Pan-African front runners from the four corners of the earth. We bring music industry professionals from the front ends of the earth. This is the number one show on YouTube in the future, not right now. I'm not delusional, so just, we're getting there. Tonight we have a special guest. It's an elder that I actually have never had the honor to meet physical, but I feel like I've known this elder my whole life, to be honest, because we go up on so much Zoom call, we've been in so much meetings, so much works, hours upon hours, and I've become so impressed by the knowledge, by the diplomacy, by the track record of works and the legacy of works that this elder really brings to the table. Trained professionally as an agronomist, a man that deal with agriculture, coming onto my own house of the Nyabingi order, as an elder, one of those front runners in the island of St. Lucia. Uh, powerful elder. Without further ado, it give I man great pleasure to welcome Bongo Wisely Rastafari blessing. Bongo Wisely. How's
Yes,
the eye?
blessed love. Give thanks, Rastafari. Yeah, man. It's an honor, to be
Yes,
on the lion's voice, Rastafari. Yeah, man.
yes,
I give
yes.
thanks to the jazz
I give
man.
thanks that the eye
Son.
is honored I with the
Yeah,
eye
man. Looking
presence.
forward to have a nice reasoning with the eye,
Yeah, man,
Rastafari.
as always, as always. So before we jump in, because tonight is a repatriation reasoning, we're not going to even give suspense on that, because you saw the flyer, if you see the flyer. But before we get into that reasoning, who is Bongo Wisely? Where was the I born? What was the I upbringing like? Were you born Rastafari? How did you find out about Rastafari? We want to get the foundation.
Yes, I give thanks. Yeah, well, Bongo Wisely Tafari was born on the 5th of July 1955 as Burnett Seeley in the village of Gruzile, that is the most northern village in St. Lucia.
Okay.
On the island of St. Lucia, I was born. I went to school in St. Lucia, from primary school, went to secondary school, which is St. Mary's College, which is one of the so-called highest prestigious school in the land at the time.
Okay.
Then during my stay at St. Mary's College, I fell in love with agriculture,
Okay.
because it was one of the subjects which we did at school. And from there, after I graduated from college, I got a scholarship to go to Jamaica to study more agriculture. And
Okay.
it was in Jamaica. Well, when I left St. Lucia to go to Jamaica, Rastafari had already appeared on the scene in St. Lucia,
Okay.
But then, at the time, the kind of hostility, the way the system would describe Rastafari as though it's something where we should not even go near to them.
Okay. What
Then
year
we,
are we talking about? What year are we talking about?
well, I'm talking about 1972, 73. Well,
Okay.
Rastafari first appeared in St. Lucia, I would say around 1969, thereabout. You
Okay.
know? Yeah, I graduated from secondary school in 73 and then started working with the Ministry of Agriculture. And from there, I got the scholarship to go to Jamaica to study agriculture. And
Okay.
it was in Jamaica, well, my first year, it was a coronation of 1974. Some
Okay.
of the brethren, my classmates, tell me, man, let's go to a Rastafari gathering. The first time, I was, attending a Rastafari gathering. It was the
74.
coronation of His Majesty, which was taking place at the Mona campus. And it
Wow.
was organized by the 12 tribes of Israel at the time.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you still keep in touch with anyone you met that night?
Well, in terms of the officials, well, I participated in the ceremony. I didn't really go up
Okay.
to any of the officials as such.
Yes.
I was just
You're still a
observing.
spectator. You're a spectator
Yes,
still. Yes.
yes,
But you
true.
say that left an impression on the eye.
Definitely. And one of the reasons why it left that impression is because I grew up in a Eurocentric family home, Christian, Eurocentric Christian upbringing, you know, where we studied the Bible, we read the Bible and everything, you know. So I was okuwa with a lot of the Bible scriptures and so on.
Yes.
And attending the 12 tribe session, and I saw it's the very same Bible which they were using.
Okay.
So it hit me, you know. I said, but wait, Rastafari using the Bible. And then now listening to some of the interpretation of the elders at the time, you know, reading the scripture and, you know, explaining.
Yes.
And yeah, man, it really drew something in me, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, man. And from there I see, wait, wow. And I started looking at the scripture from a different perspective from then.
And you know that the campus of the University of the West Indies is my birthplace. That's where I was born, on UE campus at the hospital there. So it's a powers for even hear the I block that sound, because you literally are talking about my birthplace, you know. So after that first 12 tribe, what was your next encounter with Rastafari from there?
Well, I attended must be about 2 or 3 of those 12 tribe gathering,
Yes.
during my stay on campus.
Okay.
But then now, after I returned to St. Lucia in 77, you know, by that time, Rastafari had already picked up momentum, was bubbling.
Okay.
And that same year, 1977, when I returned, that was the same year where there was the Mount Jimmy raid, where police invaded the settlement of Rastafari in Mount Jimmy, which is the highest mountain ridge in St. Lucia.
Okay,
you know?
I've never heard of that. So please give us a history.
Well, I am one who have been agitating and calling for that date to never be forgotten.
Okay.
You know, because it was an attempted genocide on Rastafari.
Hurt.
Yeah? Similar to what happened in the Coral Gardens incident in Jamaica,
and
the Dread Act in Dominica,
yes.
You know, and yes, 1977, the 7th of September, 1977. You know, the police invaded up there again. They claim, well, I think they got a report that somebody stole some fruits from an estate, you know, and went up there, you know, so the watchman must have complained, and, you know, so they went to the police, and the police decided to go up there, you know, and I mean, it's not 2 police who went up there, it's a squad.
Okay.
You know? Yeah, and the destruction.
Were they armed?
Of course, my brother.
Okay.
Yeah, man, they brutalized Rastafari who they met up there, destroyed their plantation, destroyed their dwellings, and made a massacre of them, you know, brought how many of them back down in prison and so on. Yeah.
Did anybody die?
No, nobody didn't die as such from that.
But the destruction of property, brutality, all of
right.
those took place. And you say that's never been recognized by the government.
Well, no, we as Rastafari been always trying to keep that date alive within the memoirs of St. Lucia, you know, but no recognition as such, although, well, government has kind of given some kind of form of apology, but more towards the brutality against cannabis.
Okay.
You know, but the other brutalities because of our stance, our Pan-African position, you know. Yeah, all of that is things where the apology is needed, you know,
and
moving
right now,
forward.
I'm noticing a trend because everywhere Rastafari set up villages that were self-reliant, these were destroyed by the state throughout the Caribbean. So when we look at the current economic status of Rastafari through the Caribbean, we would have to say that the state played some role, because if these establishment pinnacle, you know, in Dominica and the hills with the Dread Act, now you're telling us about atrocities in St. Lucia. So if these settlements had been allowed to mature and develop, it would have set an economic base for Rastafari that
Give
we would have
thanks.
been thriving to this time. So this is
Give
very
thanks.
important, and this is why the Lions have to tell their own stories. So I'm glad that the eye
Okay.
is able. And 1977 is the year I'm born, you know. So just to give you some
Wow.
context, you know, that was the year I was born. So
Mystic.
you
Mystic.
see, man, say the 2 sevens clash. We always hear about the 2-7 clash. So
And
what?
the 3/7 clash. Because it's 7th of September 1977.
Hot.
7.
So
And when you really look at it as September,
yes,
September is also 7, you know.
yes, Sep. Yeah,
Set. Yeah.
yeah, it's supposed to be seventh
Right.
month. Yeah,
It's a mystic Iowa.
highly.
And strangely, of late, CARICOM and the African Union has chosen September 7th as the CARICOM African Union Day.
Okay. Give thanks for that sound. So, what was Rastafari like after this atrocity took place? You're just returning from Jamaica. You've been exposed to 12 tribe of Israel. You know, somewhat. Did you have locks at this time, or you still did not have any locks at this time?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
So the seed is in the heart, but it's not showing yet. Yes.
Exactly.
So what was the next move now? This happened, the atrocity, you're coming back. What was your next move?
Well, when I returned, you know, from Jamaica, well, although I didn't carry the locks, but I returned start wearing a tam.
Okay.
So when I first reported back to the office, to the Ministry of Agriculture, wearing a tam on my head and so on, the then minister, you know, look at me a kind of a way and what are you asking me? Why am I coming in the office with a tam on my head?
Yeah.
You know, at the time, I can't remember exactly what was my response, but I did not really take him on as such.
Yes.
No, but from then I realized, you know, because after I returned in 1977, I did not get employed until 1978, you know.
Okay.
I don't know whether it was something that was said and, you know, yeah, but they just ignore my, you know, because I came well qualified, everything with all my, you know, documents and so on. But then for one reason or the other, you know, it took till about 78 for me to be employed within the Ministry of Agriculture.
And,
You know,
what was your
but
first
then by that time, as I said, the Mount Jimmy raid took place in that same 77.
Okay.
Then in 1978, the Rastafari community held their very first groundation in Ayanola.
Okay. And who was there? Was that Bongo Wisely
Well,
time?
no. Just strictly brethren from Ayanola.
Okay.
You know, well, you have names like Rasuku.
Okay.
Rasuku was a graduate from the Mona campus. He had just come down, and again he was victimized. He was not given employment, so he was there with the brethren, them giving them moral support and so on. You know, brethren like Get Through. You had people like Papa, you know, and you know these are some of the elders from the beginning. You know. We
Wow.
really got the movement going. They had some sisters as well, you know, with them, you know. So the first organization was in 1978. That was the Ayanola Rastafari Improvement Association.
So you use the term Ayanola. Where does that term come from? Because I always hear the I refer to St. Lucia as Ayanola. Where does that term come from?
Well, that is the indigenous name of the country.
Okay.
Well, it's Christopher Columbus who give the name St. Lucia.
Okay.
Because he discovered St. Lucia on 13 December, which is the feast of St. Lucy.
Oh.
You know, so they give it the name St. Lucia after Christopher Columbus.
Okay.
You know? So as Rastafari, you know, and not only Rastafari, but there are a number of other people, institutions who have that name, the Ayanola,
Ayanola. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that a Taino name?
Well,
Who were the indigenous?
probably it might be more with the Caribs or,
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
And we know that
Right.
there were Africans running through the Caribbean islands at that time as well, because
Then,
Columbus wrote about that in his journal, seeing Africans amongst the Taino when he arrived as well. And we know that Africans were trotting through the whole earth. So
yes, sir.
that is very powerful. So that first groundation, that was a Nyabingi gathering.
Well, yes, because the sound, the wording Nyabingi was used as well.
Okay.
Because we at the time the music from Ras Michael and the Sons of Negus, that album Nyabingi, that album was popular in St. Lucia at the time, so
Okay.
we had not had access to the elders in Jamaica as such yet.
Okay.
So the Rastafari, just as I see, well, the brethren Rasuku, who came from Jamaica, came up with some vibes, plus brethren, even the federal boat, the federal maple and the federal palm.
Yes.
Jamaicans would travel from on that and come to the islands.
Okay.
And that's where some of us first saw Rastafari.
Okay, and we learned about that just recently from our interview with Ras Tafari, who told us about these two boats that were purchased from Canada, and they would go between the Caribbean. So
Definitely.
you also are saying that was a part of your reality at that time.
Yeah, in terms, because traveling to the islands, most of us at the time used the federal boat.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And as I see, Rastafari people from Jamaica use the boat to also visit the other islands.
Visit the other
And
islands.
so some of them started spreading the Rastafari culture as well. Plus, other people travel on the boat, went to Jamaica, got access to the levity as well. So the federal boat played a crucial role in disseminating the culture of Rastafari.
We're finding that out here on the Lion Voice.
I personally, that's my personal opinion.
No.
I am of the view that the leaders, the authorities, never continued that ferry service because they wanted to keep us divided.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. Because by that time, airline was introduced, and it was much more expensive and so on, whereas on the boat, people traveling, between islands, you could go island hopping, and so on, from one point to another. So the Caribbean people was getting to know each other.
Okay.
Yeah. But then the authorities, realized, well, boy, if them people get together, we won't be able to control them.
We won't be able to control them. That is the story.
So yeah.
Take us forward. Take us forward. Was the I attending that first groundation, or you only heard about it at the time? Were you able to attend?
Well, no, I was not present. As I said, it so happened. I got my employment started in 1978, as I said. Yes. And it was that very same weekend.
Okay.
And I was being transferred to a region away from home.
Okay.
So the ministry, the government arranged, for transport to take me to the place, that weekend. And so I missed that groundation.
Okay.
But I heard about it and everything.
Yeah, man. So what was the first position officially that you had with the government in the Ministry of Agriculture?
Well, when I returned from Jamaica, I started as an extension officer, assisting the farmers, giving them advice, directing them in terms of the proper techniques and so on to use, to get better production. And then afterwards, I moved over to the research section where I went into surveillance, plant quarantine, pest control and them kind of things there.
Okay, and
And
then
that's where I remained.
okay. So did you stay in research, or where did you end
Yeah,
up?
in research. Yeah,
Research.
yeah.
Powerful, powerful. So, when do you decide I'm going to put on my locks now and fully just embrace the outward appearance of Rastafari?
Sin. Yeah, well, as I said, when I returned from Jamaica,
Yes,
77, and as I said, I had to return home to my parents,
yes,
and that the Eurocentric Christian vibe, because I grew up in that,
yes, yes,
so during the week, I wouldn't comb my hair, but then on a Sunday, I would have to go to church, So I would have come out on the Sunday and, the rest of the week it would be rough up again. Now
yes,
it's
yes,
when I got my employment,
yes.
and then now I was transferred to a district away from home. That is where, I got the liberty to just
Free up.
dread up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Natty
Right.
Congo, Natty Congo. Were you the first Rastafari employed with the government, or were there others before you that were employed with the government?
Very good question. This question, we have been reasoning about that here. And yes, I think brethren have convinced me that I am the first one, who was
Okay,
employed
mighty.
with
Yes,
the
history.
dread. The brethren I mentioned, Suku, who came from Jamaica,
Yes.
he as I said, he was not given employment until after 1979. I think 79 there was a change in the government, and it's then he was employed. But
So,
I got employed from 1978. Yeah, the
so
first
I
one
just
with
just want the lion pride to know that we are talking to the first Rastafari brethren employed by the government of St. Lucia. So the eyes are walking history, you know. When we talking to Bongo Wisely Tafari, them to know that the eye broke down that door, because I'm sure they employed others after the eye, but the eye broke that door down through the powers of the king. And I love that the fact that it's in the field of agriculture, because agriculture is so crucial to I and I liberty. So I'm so elated to know that the I from in the 70s was working in the field of agriculture. And I don't know if the I know this, but of course the I would have been changing the perception of Rastafari, because I'm sure there was a lot of stigma attached to Rastafari in St. Lucia at the time. Um, and the I being a professional working with the government would have changed a lot of people's perception of Rastafari being as highly educated as the I was. Was there discrimination in your government job? How did you feel? What was the atmosphere working in the government in those early days?
well, yeah, the discrimination was there. There were certain people who to them Rasta and this and that, and there was those who were more sympathetic, and they would embrace you. And even among within the Rastafari fold too, the discrimination was there.
Yes,
Well, a Rasta government, boy, a Rasta looking for government, and
yes,
so
yes.
yeah, man, it was dread, Yeah, man, my own brethren, them and sister, some of them,
So
yeah,
you're
man,
taking attacks from both
and
sides. You're getting it
all
from
that
both
Rasta,
sides.
I'm a system Rasta and all them kind of things, and yeah,
Wow.
man. But I just had to persevere and endure, because what really kept me again is from the scripture, knowing the story of Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Okay.
How were they as Rastafari? I consider they were Rastafari, but then Nebuchadnezzar had to bow and acknowledge their quality, you know, and,
Yes.
and 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 they were employed and they did a good work.
Yes.
So through that, that kept me, and I persevered. And well, right now I can see there are a number of brethren and sistren within the Rastafari faith who are now employed with the government, in different
different
areas.
capacities.
Yes, sir.
In those early days, were the item reading the speeches of His Majesty, or it was just the Bible?
No, well, we were reading, the speeches of His Majesty, because also, Kwasi, in I think around 1979,
Yes.
the first Rastafari newspaper, Calling Rastafari,
Okay.
was established by the same set of elders them.
Yes.
Yeah, man, and we had that newspaper, going throughout the region,
Okay.
Calling Rastafari.
Was that before or after Rastafari Speaks out of Trinidad?
Rastafari Speaks came and met Calling Rastafari in circulation.
Okay, give thanks, give thanks.
Yeah.
So was that the first Rastafari newspaper? I'm not clear on that history if there was one in Jamaica before that, but was that the first Rastafari
Yes, I
newspaper?
think, yes, there was one in Jamaica before.
Okay. Okay.
I think it's
Okay.
Rasta Voice or something. So yeah,
That's
because
Rasta Silver.
because in during my stay in Jamaica, I used to see copies of it with Ras Historian,
Rasta
Ras
Historian, yes.
Brown,
Yes. Yes.
those brethren there, yeah.
Okay, but that was the first paper in Saint Lucia.
In the Eastern
Called the
Caribbean region.
Rastafari. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Powerful. So, what exposure did you have to the speeches? Was that a regular part, or was it mostly the Bible that ones were heighting on in those days?
Well, I would say both of them. There were some people, some Rastafari who didn't embrace the Bible too.
Okay.
So there
Even
was
from that time.
yeah, it was more from a cultural perspective,
Okay.
Yeah, and some man had access to the words of His Majesty,
Okay.
also. Yeah.
So coming from a biblical perspective, what was it that convinced you that this man, from Ethiopia, this king of kings, was, that one who was worthy to be praised, who opened the book to loose the seven seals thereof, all of that. What was that journey like? Speak to us about what convinced the eye to hail His Majesty.
Yes, I give thanks. Yeah, man. Well, as I said, I grew up in the Bible.
Yes.
From youth, because I was, like even president of the youth group, because we passed from Baptist and Nazarene, those two different institutions,
Okay.
And I played a leading role, within the youth forum there, within those institutions, So we did a lot of Bible studying and different things, Now, I always used to be questioning, because I remember once at a youth seminar, youth camp, I after reading Psalm 68, where it said to extol Him by His highest name, Jah, So I remember asking the pastor, but pastor, how would the Bible say that we're supposed to extol the Almighty by His highest name, Jah? And how we reject that name. When the Rastas say that name, we as though we scorn them. Why is that? But look it there. The pastor look at me and tell me the only jar he knows is a jar of jam. So from there, all of that, they start now, the convictions start growing,
Okay.
Yeah, man, it's something they're trying to hide, and so on, So and then, so then now, as I said, after I was transferred away from home, so then some weekends I would have come home. Now, at that time, the Nazarene church was downstairs of our home.
Okay.
Yeah, So while on the Sunday, service is going on downstairs, and we upstairs. So what when I came, I come down for the weekend. Probably I'd probably the Saturday or whatever. The Sunday, I would, instead of going to service, I would just go and lock myself in my room upstairs,
Yes.
and read my scriptures and so on, have my devotion and so on, until one day, my father came, and he asked me, well, why am I not coming to church? So then I said, well, Daddy, I just don't feel comfortable, in there anymore, so I having my devotion here. Well, he went back to the service, and the evening was my marching orders,
Was your father the preacher?
Well, he was not the preacher.
Yes.
But he was one of the elders within the congregation. At times he would be preaching too, and so on.
So he gave you some orders.
Man, he told me, well, boy, so he called me, and so he tell me, well, so these days it look like he want to be Rastafari. He didn't say Rastafari, he said Rasta.
Yes.
So initially I told him no. But then afterwards I said, no, man, I cannot hide that anymore. So I said, no, Daddy, you're right. I'm, these days is Rastafari I really move into. So then he showed me, well, 2 male crabs cannot stay in the same home.
Oh.
So then I tell him, well, all right, well, just give me a little time. Let me set up myself, probably get a place, and then I will collect my things and move. And he agreed. So I give thanks. So then I contacted some of my brethren, friends. We found a place. So then when we found a place, I came home, I collect my goods, and I move out.
That was before you got the job with the government?
No, I was already employed.
Oh, you're already employed. Okay, so that was after
I came from school.
Yes.
And I got employed.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay. So continue about what convinced you? What were some of the Bible verses? Right. What was it that convinced you that this man was worthy to be praised and leaving your Christian background?
Yes. Also continuing from, as I said, my thing with the pastor about the jam, jar, the only jar he knows, jar of jam, and so on. Then I read in Acts chapter 2, where it speaks of, I will raise up Christ to sit upon the throne of David.
To the loins.
According to the loins, according to the flesh, I will raise up Christ to sit upon the throne of David. Now, I know the throne of David is not no throne in the sky, because I read of David, Solomon, and all of them.
Yes.
And knowing the thing of the Queen of Sheba and, Menelik, and, the connection with Ethiopia, so also the scripture spoke about the rainbow and sigma, which circles the throne. Okay. Now the rainbow and sigma is red, gold, and green. It have other colors, but these are the 3 significant colors.
Okay.
Whereas the throne in Europe was red, white, and blue. So right away I realized, well, the throne of David is the throne in Ethiopia. You see, so when it says, well, I will, according to the loins, according to the flesh, I will raise up Christ to sit upon the throne of David. And by that time I was hearing from the elders that Haile Selassie is the returned Christ, Christ in his kingly character.
Okay.
So all of these things just mesh. Yeah.
And by Christ, you're talking about the anointed one. You're not saying that he's Yeshua.
The Redeemer. The returned Savior. True. Yeah, so all of these, and then my first visit back to Jamaica was in 1983 at the 83 conference, and I remember after the conference, I spent some time in Jamaica. Then I went by IRV's place in Westmoreland,
Okay.
you know. And I remember he had a nice cottage, with kind of raised building, like them African building where you could take a ladder and go up to the top, and where you have your resting place and so on.
Yes.
So I was resting in one of those. And in the night, that night I got up to go and urinate. And as soon as I reached on the ground floor, there was just a lightning flash. And out of the flash, there appeared the image of His Majesty with the
Wow.
crown on his head. And as though that was just the crowning of the vibe.
What year
Yeah,
was that? What year was that?
that was in 1984, I think.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Mighty.
A
Mighty.
conference was in 83. Then I returned to Jamaica in 84, and
Okay.
then I was there with IRV and them in Westmoreland. Yeah, Little London. I think that was the name of the place.
Okay.
Yeah,
Powerful.
man. And I got that vision of His
Powerful.
Majesty, and that just confirmed everything.
That confirm everything to the eye.
Everything that
The
the
lightning
Almighty,
flash.
He is the Redeemer.
So talk to us about now that you're firm in your trod. You talked about the conference. Where does the Caribbean Ras Tafari Organization rise from, or what was the beginning of the Caribbean Ras Tafari Organization?
Well, again, based on our connection, the linkage with the parent house in Jamaica, there were some missionary trips that were organized. 84, 84 they went to Barbados and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. 86 visited St. Lucia and Antigua, Then in the 1992, which was the centenary year of His Majesty, again, to the influence of, again, that connection, Ras Iral and Ras Iron from Barbados came to St. Lucia, in 1991.
Okay.
And they spent time by me, we spent time together, and we reasoned and we planned the centenary mission.
Okay.
You see, well, yes, it's the centenary year of His Majesty. We would be good if, to have the elders and them to come through. Now, that happened in about April 1991, and then July 91, I went to Jamaica for the ISIS, and I brought the vibes to the elders and then showed them of our intentions. We would like that whole vibe to set up. And they were well pleased, they were glad, Yeah. And so that the centenary trod came through. And again, as I said, very mystical, because the delegation which left Jamaica after the coronation ISIS in 1992 was Ras Bonajiz.
Okay.
They had Suji, they had Dr. Dean, Israel, that's Magdala.
Okay.
He was also on that mission. Well, I'm not too sure if there were others there, but the first leg was in Barbados. Then when the mission arrived in Barbados, went to continue the second leg, which would have been in St. Vincent, the other Jamaicans left. They didn't continue. They decided they're going back to Jamaica.
Okay.
I've never really found out what was the reason, but they went back. And so Ras Bonajiz and Israel remained. So then some brethren from Barbados tag along with them, and they went to St. Vincent.
Okay.
Then from St. Vincent, they came to St. Lucia. So then some brethren from St. Vincent also tag along and came to St. Lucia. And so, us from the different islands, joining to make the mission a success.
Give
You know,
thanks.
we continued and we visited 13 different islands.
Wow.
You know? Yeah.
The ferry
And
was still running at that time.
definitely, yes,
Okay. And so it was a centenary that sparked the foundation for the CRO
for
to
the
be established.
CRO.
Okay.
Definitely. True.
So was that the first trod that Ras Bona G's made to St. Lucia?
The 86, yes, 86 was the first run.
Okay, 80. So before the centenary, then he
Yes.
had already been there. Because I don't think a lot of ones know the significance of Ras Bona G's trod through the Caribbean. Can you talk a little bit about your experience with our, this is one of the foundation Nyabingi elders who brought forth the youth black faith. He wasn't the only one in leadership position. I have a interview coming up with Nana Faraika, and she explained that Ras Bonaji was one of many elders who was, in control of the Nyabingi. Because sometimes we think it was just Ras Bonaji's, but there were many elders that he was just one of them. But he was one that really had that vision to travel. What was your
Yes.
experience with Ras Bonaji's?
Yes, well, again, my first experience with Ras Bonajis was in 1983
Okay.
at the Rita conference.
Yes.
Now, mind you, initially, Ras Bonajis and them had put fire on the conference,
Hot.
They never attended the opening session.
Okay.
But there were other elders, Bongo Rocky, I think Bongo Time. There were 1, 2 others who attended the opening ceremony.
Okay.
Now, then on the 23rd of July, because the conference started, I think, around the 18th or 19th of July and move on. So by the time 23rd, there was ISIS to take place in a place called Lucky Valley.
Okay.
So the night of the 22nd, we left the conference at Mona campus and traveled to the Bingi grounds. And it was there, I first saw the elders, the Nyabingi administration in operation,
Okay.
And
How did that ISIS? That must have been a red ISIS.
yes, well, mystic,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But then it again, as I said, enough mystical vibes happened that night too,
Yes.
because normally sisters are not allowed to reason in a Nyabingi gathering.
Okay.
Now, Sister Ijania, who was, she was there representing Anguilla,
Yes.
at the conference. She was also a student at Mona campus at the time.
Okay.
Frankai, they were students at Mona at the time,
Okay. Sister Ijana, our beloved sister,
Yes, I am.
we have
That's
to
where I
keep her
first
name
met both
alive.
she and Frankai, at that 83
We
conference.
have to keep that name alive. One of our beloved sister.
Yes, I. Yeah, man. So then at the conference, at the Bingi, reports were being given about what the conference is all about because, as I said, some of the elders put fire on the conference.
Yes.
Hey, Babylon Rastagoa conference, fire burn them by the way, and them kind of thing. So then now reports are given, about what the conference is all about, what is expectations, and so on.
Yes.
Now, Sister Ijania was very instrumental, in organizing, getting the conference going.
Yes.
So she had to give a report of what is taking place.
Okay.
Now, for her to reason, Bongo Rocky had to go and reason with the elders to get permission for Sister Ijania to address the gathering in the tabernacle.
Serious history.
So he went, and then the permission was granted.
Give thanks. Give thanks.
And
That's
that, I think that's the first time where a sister was given permission to address a Nyabingi gathering.
just
You
a
know, and
nice.
it's continued to today, where right now, even with the revision of the Nyabingi guidelines,
Yes.
we are including the fact that the sisters should be able to even chant out of the 7 Psalms.
Yes.
Sisters
Yes.
can chant Psalms as well, you
And
know.
I've seen it myself. I was at the ISIS in 2021 of His Majesty Earthstrong. So we know that Sistren do block up in the Ibernacle for some time. And Nana Farika also speaks about that. You know, her struggling on the Bing girls to block up and these things with her
Yes,
contemporaries. So these are the history that we want to capture and want to make sure we preserve so that the ones who come after I know the evolution of where this is coming from. So let's go forward because we're going to jump into the repatriation reasoning. CRO, what was the year that it was formally established?
yes, I. Talking about the CRO, well, from the Centenary Trod,
Yes.
which ended in 1993, July 1993, the last leg of the Centenary Trod was that session which saw the sanctification of the Nyabingi Tabernacle in Ayanola.
Okay.
And that was presided over by Ras Bonerges.
Isis.
Also, during that Centenary Trod, that was the time we broke the barrier again so that Rastafari could enter into Dominica. Because following the Dread Act, Rastafari was not allowed to enter. And during the centenary mission, we were able to get in contact with Rasman, Kasati, you know, Ghana and them, and show them of the vibe, and they were able to contact the government and permission was granted. And that was the first time Rastafari was
100
granted that
years
official
after 100
permission.
years, the
Yeah, man. You know, so all of that unity, that strength, you know, is what brought us together. Because the conference, there was an international conference in 1997, you know, and at that conference, Barbados was asked to host the next conference, which would be in 1998.
Yes.
So then the Barbados delegation at the time, there was Sister Ishiba, Sister Brother Iral, and family Ras Bongo Spare, you know, and probably 1, 2 others. But you know, so they decided that instead of doing it Barbados by themselves, they invited us from the other islands to join together to help host and organize that conference.
Okay.
So right there, we established the Eastern Caribbean Rastafari Working Committee.
Okay.
Now, that is also directives coming from the parent house in Jamaica,
Jamaica.
the establishment of those Nyabingi working committees.
Okay.
You know?
And
So
that conference is where Ross Sam Brown passed away?
Yes, I.
Yes, I remember. That was when I was just starting to come into the trad. So I remember that very vividly.
So out of the Eastern Caribbean Rastafari Working Committee, which was established, we met twice. We met in Trinidad in December of 97. And we met in Barbados in April of 98, you know, to finalize the preparations for the conference, you know.
Okay.
So then at the conference in 1998, we realized that we couldn't just remain as the Eastern Caribbean Rastafari Working Committee. So we upgraded it to an organization, and we said the Eastern Caribbean Rastafari Organization.
Okay.
So it was we, as the Eastern Caribbean Rastafari Organization, we hosted the conference in Barbados.
Okay.
At there, a declaration was made confirming the establishment of the Eastern Caribbean Rastafari Organization. Now, we realized that after the conference, the work of really getting the islands together has just begun. So we engaged on a series of what we call Rastafari mini summits, where we would visit the different islands. Due to the different contacts which we already have, would make contact with a brethren or sister and whoever within the island, and they would make the arrangement where a group of us would come, probably spend a weekend, have reasoning with the wider community, let them know what the whole vibe is all about, the need to organize and centralize. And so we were able to establish the different organizations, Rastafari organizations, and then in 2000, when we were having one of the summits, we got requests for membership from the French-speaking islands, as well as the Spanish-speaking islands, from way up in Puerto Rico and all those areas there. They wanted to become members of the Eastern Caribbean Ras Tafari Organization. So we embraced them in Dominica in 2000. And then we realized that the name should not remain just as the Eastern Caribbean Ras Tafari Organization. So from there, the name changed to the Caribbean Ras Tafari Organization.
Give thanks.
And that's how the name
Caribbean was official in 2000.
2000, yes, sir.
Okay. And then, what was the position in the Caribbean Rastafari Organization?
Well, the first chairperson of the organization was Ras Iral from Barbados. The secretariat was in Barbados. The Barbados ICA, which is the Aichigaruganim Council for the Advancement of Rastafari. They run the secretariat. Ras Iral was the chairman. His Empress was the secretary. They had Ras Vincent, you had Sister Aishiba, you had Ras Iron. These were officers within the secretariat. At the time, I was chairman of the Agriculture Committee. Agriculture and Environment Committee.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Because during that time, we would organize, like whenever we have summits, the summit would organize like different little workshops. Whether it's on agriculture, Sister Ijanya would do subjects like conflict management, how to run an organization, because she was skilled within those areas.
Very skilled.
There was brethren like Ras Bobby who would come with herbal treatment, herbal medicine, educating us on the importance of herbal medicine and, things of that sort. So, so that's what really brought the love together, within what is now the CRO. And this year we're celebrating 25 years.
Wow. Mighty,
yes,
mighty. Jamaica has never really been very active in the CRO. What do you think is the reason for that? Or is there a reason for that?
Well, again, even from the time of the 83 conference and even up to the 98 conference in Barbados, Jamaica had the RCO, Rastafari Centralization Organization. Ras De Silva was the chairperson, and it must be the RCO was like a mentor for us within the Eastern Caribbean island.
Okay.
So we look up, because we all acknowledge Jamaica as the parent house when it comes to Rastafari runnings, So it was our intention, as I said, we started as the Eastern Caribbean Rastafari Organization.
Yes.
But then the RCO, I don't know what happened. I think upon the transition of Ras De Silva, it seems to have gone down. Then by the 2000 coming up, the Millennium Council came in.
Yes.
Now, we were of the expectation, that the Millennium Council will be that kind of all-inclusive umbrella kind of organization. for Jamaica, you know, because we
Yes.
were hoping that by the time Jamaica come, then they would become part of the CRO to make it the wider Caribbean
Wider
region.
Caribbean. Well,
Yeah, then that never really materialized.
yes, yes, yes,
Presently, I think there is a process with the RMO.
yes.
Yeah, so we looking hopefully
Time.
that
It's
at
gonna
least the
happen.
RMO could become part of the CRO to really give that the Caribbean oneness,
It's gonna happen. I'm confident in that victory, and that's one of the reasons that I wanted to invite the eye here, because I know the RMO ones them will watch this and be given that history too, so that the more that we can come together and we can overstand the roots of things, is the more easier it makes it for us to become one, because everyone right now realize that Rastafari must become one to fulfill our divine destiny, in terms of where the I Majesty is leading us, and the role that we must play to the liberation of Africa, which give us the perfect segue to our topic, our main topic, which is repatriation. I was on a phone call. I'm not a phone call, a Zoom meeting. There was a Rastafari Reparation Committee that was being established. And I heard this fascinating term, which was reparation for resettlement. And from I heard it, I was so fascinated, because we talk about repatriation very abstract. So to hear something that sounded like a tangible plan, I was very fascinated, and I wanted to get more overstanding from the eye, in terms of what reparation for resettlement is. What is the CRO program for repatriation, or what the sound is on repatriation right now, because several of my interviewees have said, Rastafari has lost that fire for repatriation. And here on this network, I bought land in Ghana. I'm in the process, but that's migration. Um, that repatriation, which, prophetic government to government, returning of the captives, what is the ISONA on that?
Yes, I give thanks, Rastafari. Well, as it is known, globally, Rastafari has always been agitating for repatriation with reparations. From the time of our ancestors, Marcus Garvey came, continued it, and now Rastafari is continuing the mission, Now, in 2001, the United Nations facilitated the World Conference Against Racism. And out of that conference, there was what was known as the Plan of Action, the Declaration and Plan of Action. The Declaration declared that slavery, slave trade, colonialism, native genocide, all of these things were crimes against humanity. And as a result of that, there is need for redress. There is need for reparations. Now, within the plan of action, there is one of the chapters, one of the paragraphs, which speaks to the welcome in terms of the modus operandi of redress. One of the ways is to facilitate the welcome return and settlement of African descendants
Okay.
into the countries, those that are willing. Now, hearing that, we realize, well, boy, this is something that needs to be well structured.
Yes.
Now, when it comes to repatriation, it's not all Africans in the West are interested in repatriation.
True.
Even not all Rastafari are interested in repatriation. So
It's true.
those who are interested should never be denied of that opportunity. Now, according to the declaration, it says that the country is supposed to facilitate the welcome return and settlement. So through that, then we realize within the CRO, somebody need to step up to put that plan in place.
Okay.
That program in place, which would facilitate, that settlement of Africans from the West into Africa. So that is why how we came up with the idea of establishing the RSAP project, Reparations for Settlement in Africa project.
Okay.
What it intends is to utilize the proceeds of reparations to establish settlements in the African countries that are willing to accept us as returning citizens.
Okay.
In essence, that is what the project is all about. But then there are a number of other matrix which needs to be put in place to really make it functional.
Okay. So is this a finished plan or is it still in the concept phase?
Well, it is. I wouldn't say it's still in the concept phase, but then it is still open for suggestion. It is not concrete to say, well, we know it all. What we've done, we've established the website, we put it on there, and we're inviting comments, suggestions from the wider community as to the way forward. Because we don't have all the answers, and we are open to suggestions.
What are we talking about in terms of numbers for these settlements? Are we talking about a massive, are we talking about 100, 1,000, 10,000? How many people are we talking about?
Well, on the website, the database, that is that kind of information we're looking to gather on the database. People who are interested, what country, whether they have a specific country they are interested in, what resources they have, what skills they present in, it's information. We that's the stage we are in all now, gathering information.
The mapping.
Yes.
Okay, interesting. So because when we talk about repatriation, we talk about 7 miles of Black Star liner, coming into the harbor. We have these very romantic notions. Have you all looked at, is repatriation gonna, are we looking at ships taking the return? Are we looking at flights, direct flights from the Caribbean to Africa? Are we looking at issues of employment, land acquisition, development? You're an agronomist. Are we looking at agricultural? There are when I think about this, I'm thinking about so many components. Are all those part of the plan?
Definitely. Yeah, well, the RSAP project, as we say, it embodies, well, as we see, establishment of settlements in Africa. That would mean transportation from the West to Africa, settlements. Now, for the settlements, land have to be involved, and with those lands, establishing business entities, enterprises, and so on. There is the option of establishing financial institution, within that whole framework, which would help to finance business plans, which different ones would be coming with, those who need financing, etc. So all of these things are taken into consideration. And as we said, it have to be done with government to government. The CRO presently, as we say, we are part of the CRC, the CARICOM Reparations Commission, which is that would be the CARICOM, and right now the CARICOM and the African Union are coming together you know. So these subjects would have to be unfolded at those forums. You know, the success of the RSAP initiative would depend on how those African leaders and even the CARICOM leaders embrace the initiative as well, you know. Because, for example, you know, Kwasi, I mean, all them CARICOM leaders has always been bragging and commending Rastafari. Yeah, man, they
Yes.
have been the front runners, they have been the, you know, and so on. And I mean, if they're really serious about that, you know, what they need to do is to give this support to an initiative like the RSAP project, you know, probably sit down with us and see the areas of improvement where it can be improved upon. And, you know, yes, if they're real serious about the role that Rastafari has been playing in that area, they should give the support. And then we will see it's not just lip service they on,
Okay.
you
What
know?
are, what are we thinking in terms of numbers? Give me some hard numbers. Are we talking about millions of US, billions? What kind of numbers would have to be to facilitate this type of mass resettlement, the infrastructure development? You know, surely we're talking millions, but what kind of
Yeah.
millions are we talking about?
Well, again, those settlements might be in different states, different African countries.
Yes.
You know, so needs assessment would have to be done, financial assessments, you know, a lot of research would have to be done, you know, to really come up with those figures, you know.
And
So I honestly, I can't really
of
give
course,
a figure. Again, it all depends on the number of people interested in repatriation, you know.
so that's the
Our
stage.
the way we vision it is that we are hoping that even the different countries would be able to establish what we would refer to as repatriation centers, where
Okay.
probably, like, for example, a Nyabingi center can be utilized, you know, for, say, like, for example, in St. Lucia. See, a Nyabingi center is utilized where we have all the people who are interested in repatriation, where they could be gathered there, probably at certain times to get certain orientation program going, you know, training where probably you'd have people from the African country where they intend to come down and have sessions with us, you know, to get people acclimatized
And prepare
to
them.
what is expected in Africa, you know. So
And
there's a lot of work which needs to be done, you know, to really make it functional as such.
I would say that even the research to get the figures and to do the mapping probably requires funding to do
All of that.
the proper research. So that might be a first step in terms of engaging the Caribbean governments to help fund some of this research to get the accurate numbers. Let people know because you know my viewership is majority Rastafari. How can ones in the Caribbean um, go and fill out your mapping document? Is it on the website? They can just go to the website and fill out a form, or how does that work if ones are interested in being included in the study?
Yes. Well, we've created a website, www.reparationsforsettlement.net. You know, reparationsforsettlement, one word, .net. You
Okay.
know, once you go in there, you will get information about the whole project, what it's all about.
And
You
they
know?
can be part of the initial mapping, and I
Yes,
think it's
yes.
crucial.
Because obviously it was set up to gather information. There is a brethren who is specially responsible for managing that website. So the information, he would be able to access those information in terms of people's interests, etc., you know. And I guess these information would then be tabled and, you know, in our discussion with CARICOM, with the African Union, you know, we can then see Yes, we have interest in so and so, so and so countries, how much people, what resources will be coming forth. And also, even in terms of the resources, I mean, a lot of us down here in the West, some of us are successful business persons.
Yes,
And some of us have business where we just like to transfer over to Africa, So all of these things would have to be taken into account. Yeah.
exactly. It's a
That's why it has
massive
to be
task.
government to government,
It's a
you know.
massive task. I'm glad to hear that CRO has begun the work. Do we have any timelines in order to achieve at least the first phase of this work, or is it an open timeline? What is the vision?
Well, in terms of the timeline, it would all depend on the whole reparations initiative, the reparations struggle, the reparations campaign, you know. We really need to step up, even at the CARICOM level, because, I mean, CARICOM embraced that subject in 2013. Then there was a first reparations conference in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And the second conference took place in Antigua in 2014. And up to a day like today, there's no reporting as to that second reparations conference. And we are yet to hear about a third conference. So it begs the question how serious those CARICOM leaders are, you know.
I
Now,
think
we have the CARICOM and the African Union Day, which is the 7th of September. I think they recently met in Guyana this
okay,
year,
okay.
right? But then it's very little we really hearing,
I,
you
I
know?
I wasn't even aware that the meeting. I remember the first one that happened during COVID.
Yes.
But I wasn't even aware that they had continued, so that might be my fault. But we definitely not getting that news is not spreading, on a high level in terms of the resolutions and things coming out. So I'm glad that the eye is bringing a highlight to that. In terms of this uh, repatriation, is there a plan B? Because if we wait on the government to do this reparation, I feel like we might be waiting, or we might leave it to our great grandchildren sometime. And I want to see it in my lifetime. Is there another plan that's being worked on simultaneously to facilitate repatriation for those who want to chud as a collective strength, or has that been conceived?
Yeah, well, both options are available. As I said, remember, our own investments can be utilized as well, to facilitate the establishment of those settlements, you know. So, in terms of the plan B, if the reparation thing is dragging and there are groups which can come together, raise their finances and so on, get the support from the receiving country, meaning the country in Africa who would be receiving us. Because, I mean, the land establishment is very crucial in establishing a settlement. We must have land.
Must
If we
have
have to
land.
just think of just going and buy land, you know, the resources which we would take to buy those land, we can use it to develop the land instead,
I
you know.
agree. I agree. I think it's very crucial. I'm looking at 2030 as a very critical date. If we look at most of the development plans around the world, you'll see that the smart city rollout, most of them have 2030 as their indicator.
The
The
time,
digital, the digital currency, and the cashless society, the biometric scanning, the CTV scanning as a normal within the city structures. And why I get concerned when I see these plans for 2030 is that little verse in the Bible that says, without the mark of the beast, they can neither buy nor sell. So, I get nervous when I see them taking away cash, when I see them using biometrics to track people within the cities. So
Digital, everything going digital.
everything. So I think as Rastafari, we need to really look at 2030 as a serious timeline. And then even if we look at historically, you had the roaring 20s in the 1920s, which was, all of this activity and prosperities. And then 1930, with the coronation, then you had the Great Depression and you had a massive collapse of the society. Some say that even that time was manufactured. You know what I mean? Maybe because of the fear of the king of, the root of David taking the throne. So they manufactured the depression to try to control the society. But I know history repeats itself. So I'm always concerned about this 2030 date. So I think, right now, if we look at, and there was a Spanish flu, that led into the roaring 20s before into the teens, and we just came out of COVID, and now we're in the 20s again, and it's roaring again, the partying, and everybody's back to normal, and everybody forget what just happened with the lockdown. So I am very concerned. I've been telling my brethren and my sister, we need to be very diligent and not get comfortable, because the lockdown should have been a wake-up call for I and I as to what can happen, because we were caught off guard, I think, as Rastafari. We warned them that Babylon, the door would close in Babylon, and the door closed, and we were right behind the door. How do I feel? How do I feel about about these things? I'm just sharing my personal thoughts. This is not an official position of any Rastafari organization, but when I have my elder here, I have to share. Honestly, I'm on feeling to get your sound. How do I feel about it?
Yeah, well, again, these things, as this is prophecy fulfilling. I mean, Peter Tosh had already tell us the day the dollar die, what will happen, and so on. So now we're seeing the move from the dollar to digital. I mean, science and technology is what really taking over now. And Marcus Garvey had already kind of warned us that we need to teach our children the science and technology.
Okay.
If not, we're going to be left behind.
Yes.
So even in this era there where everything going digital, and so on, our youths and so on supposed to be au courant with what is going on. Yeah, because the same way they will, our youths with that, moral integrity within them will be able to ride the waves because we know that the system have their intentions. So there's nothing where we need to be worried about or be fearful of as such.
Yes.
Yeah, because His Majesty say He will always provide a way, for us.
Yes. But then we
Yeah.
also hear about the careless Ethiopians. And my concern is, I've been to Africa many times, and Africa already have Rastafari full up, Rastafari is already blossoming in Africa. So my concern is, I don't want to be one of those careless Ethiopians in the West saying, yeah, man, everything will go work out and everything will be nice. And because I was in Ghana during COVID when the lockdowns were happening. And when we were, at the Kazi project or out in the villages, you would never know there was a pandemic. It was life as usual. People were going about their life. There was, the farmers a farm. Everything was nice and airy, no mass. There was nothing going on out there. And that to I was an eye opener, that where you are when these global catastrophes are happening is very important, because you have a lot of men that say, yeah, man, the earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof. And anywhere you're there, His Majesty have you. But when I was in DC, I was lining up to go to the grocery store, You know what I mean? One at social distancing and all of these things was going on, and I never feel so irate. I tell the truth. You know, when I was here, and it was night and day between here and Ghana, so I lived that. So I'm very weary when I hear brethren very. And what I find in the Caribbean is that we're very nonchalant, we're very lackadaisical, we're taking our time. And I don't take that, which is why I purchase land and say I'm not waiting for the mass to repatriate, because we are assuming that it's going to happen one way. But like I say, Rastafari is already there. So if the West collapse, Rastafari is already in Africa. And that is one thing I think brethren and sisters need to really understand in the West, is that we need to get our act together with some diligence, because there's no man know the hour nor the minute. No man know how this thing is going to unfold. We can fool ourselves and feel very confident, but at the same time, if I told ones in 2019 that the earth, the entire planet would shut down, no air travel, no this, no that, ones would have told I was a conspiracy theorist and that I watch too much movies and all these things, and we see it come down very suddenly. You know what I mean? So these are my I and I concerns. So I'm just sharing that with the I, as the chair of the CRO. I've been sharing this with the RMO. I've been sharing this with IDOR, where we're working on a repatriation summit. So IDOR is working on, we're going to be inviting CRO, all of the different institutions to the table to talk about the plan that the item have, but also to hear what other organs and people are thinking about repatriation. Because I think the time has come. We need a comprehensive global repatriation strategy, and amongst ourselves as Rastafari, because regardless of the government to government, which I think it will happen, but there's no guarantee it will happen in our time. You know what I mean? There's no guarantee. That might be my grandchildren that live to see that victory. But for our time to spare I think we need a plan in the immediate, because the Bible speaks about the revelation, the angels who stood with the plagues to unleash these plagues upon the earth. That speaks about the quickening, that the days would be shortened for the sake of the elect, that because no flesh would survive otherwise. I'm giving you these because I know you know the prophecy. So what is the I say to this type of song?
Yes, well, again, even with repatriation, in terms of a proper definition,
Yes.
there are some people who see repatriation just as a physical move. Some people see it just as a spiritual move. They can be right here and they still tell you they are repatriated mentally.
Yes.
The whole psyche change and so on. Now, presently, we see the diaspora is now recognized as the sixth region of Africa.
That is true.
Now, meaning that Africa is now coming to us.
Yes, that is true.
So even because there were brethren, Rastafari brethren, who tell me straight up they're not on no repatriation thing.
Yes,
and so on.
I know that.
Look, I tell them, and look right now, well, the diaspora is part of Africa. You see? So sometimes we have to even rethink the whole method of repatriation. There are those who physically want to resettle on the mainland, and there are those who probably just want to go and come, do business.
Yes.
So all of these things will be facilitated, because again, with the science and technology, you can stay here in the West and have a business running in Africa. You have your representatives there and so on. Occasionally, you take a visit to go and come. The same way the Africans can stay there and have business running in the West. As well, the unity is coming closer. So all of that will change our method of thinking repatriation. Now, as the I mentioned of, fears of the system and so on, we know the intentions, because it's recorded in the Bible how many times they've made attempts to derail, the plans of the Almighty, but the Almighty say, well, no, they may prosper for a time, but eventually good must overcome evil. You see? So I also tell us that he will provide a place for us where we'll be safe from those calamities. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadows of death, and I fear no evil. So Babylon will be doing all their dirty, destructive works out there, but I will be well protected. So there's no need to be fearful. We just have to remain focused, make sure that we're not involved in no idleness or no slackness or no negative energies or things of that nature. Because it's the environment we have to keep in tune with. And that's where our protection will come from.
We asked the question: do we have food and water security to be independent of any government foolery or trickery or population control agenda? Do we have, as Rastafari, can we sustain ourselves at the present?
Well, presently, I will not say yes, we are secure, but then we are aware of the need for food security, food sovereignty, all of these things. These are high on our agenda. So even within our settlement programs, these things would definitely, be highlighted. We in the West, as I said, we've acquired the technology and so on, but Africa has the land space where we can go and implement a lot of what we've learned in the West, which would enhance our food security, enhance our whole standard of living.
And I want to just let the ones them know that Bongo Wisely is one of the elders that we had reached out to establish a ITAL certification standard. As a renowned agronomist, we have other, renowned Rastafari. This is one of the projects that we're working on with Bongo Wisely, just like how the Jewish have their halal and they have their kosher standard and the Muslims have their halal standard. We are confident that Rastafari should have an ITAL standard that would distinguish our products on the market. I have a question here from a brethren who's asking, who's this repatriation coming from? Do I want to answer that question?
Who is the repatriation coming from? Well, again, as we stated, from the World Conference Against Racism, which was organized by the United Nations, which declared that slavery and all of these things were crimes against humanity. And there is need for redress. So the redress have to be coming from the colonizers.
Okay. So in the
case, but then again, as I said, we're not depending only on that. We in the West, a lot of us, as I said, are successful business people. So our own business plans could be incorporated within the whole settlement establishments as well.
Okay. So it's a two-pronged approach in terms of the government and then
even there may be other countries who might be willing to assist us as well. All of that would be welcome.
Yes, because there are a lot of skills in the Caribbean, and there's the complaint about brain drain. And then with the African countries,
Africa needs brain gain right now.
Brain gain, because we have
yes,
all of these.
And we the heirs of the Africans, the cream of the crop that was taken away from Africa. We, the descendants, are those, to really bring back, even fulfilling, as His Majesty said, Africa awaits its creators.
Yes.
And we in the West, the cream of the crop that was taken away. We've consolidated, we've studied, we've built ourselves. Now is the time for us to return to that Africa can return to its ancient glory. But then there are a number of obstacles in our way.
Yes.
The colonizers don't want to see that happen.
No.
And even some of our own leaders who have become neo-colonialists, they side in with the colonizers.
Yes.
So there's a lot of obstacles in our way still, you know. But as we still remain confident in the victory of good over evil.
Good over evil. And I think that's why the mapping that you're doing is so crucial, because we'll need these skills banks. It's the same approach that the RMO is also taking in terms of the mapping and creating these skills banks, because we have to know what our resources are so that when we're negotiating, we can ensure that we are, that we have the data points that are necessary to make these arguments to the African governments, to our own governments, and even to these former colonial governments as well. So it's a process. It's an ongoing process, and we really give thanks that repatriation once again is on the fore, because I feel like it kind of got pushed to the side for some time. And I give thanks. I think COVID helped to kind of reinvigorate the reasoning around repatriation, the lockdowns and ones, at least in America, I know there are a lot of families that are preparing to return home as a result of being trapped in, during the lockdowns and not able to have that freedom of movement. One's kind of wake up from the slumber and say, okay, I know. So we give thanks for the eye. I want the eye to just give out the website again that ones can go and see the plan and to contribute. Now, what if there's non-Rastafari ones that want to participate? Is this only for Rastafari, or is this plan?
Definitely not. Definitely not. It is for all African descendants.
Okay.
All African descendants, because the whole RSAP thing, it entails, as we say, not only Rastafari, but all African descendants. Everybody who are entitled to reparations would qualify. But then it's not all of them want to resettle in Africa. There are those who want to remain in the West, but the RSAP deals with establishing settlements on the African continent.
Yes, very, very, very key. Well, I want to just give thanks. I'm going to open, if there are anyone in the comments who wants to ask Bongo Wisely any questions, please drop a comment, and we'll open it up for some question and answer. In the meantime, I want to just give the eye an opportunity to talk about any other projects that the eye is working on that the eye would like to highlight, whether it be individually or collectively.
Yes, well, what I would really like to speak to Kwasi is presently there seems to be a tug of war within the Rastafari community globally.
Yes.
As in terms of whether Rastafari should register or whether we should not register or whether we should just remain there, in them kind of a way there, I want to go back to 1994, just after the SEEDS conference, after the centenary trod. The United Nations organized a small island developing states conference in Barbados, and the Barbados Bingi House was invited. So they invited myself and Ras Bonajis to accompany them at that workshop, Now, all during the centenary mission, the centenary trod, we were establishing in the different islands we were establishing the Church of His Majesty, Order of the Nyabingi. You know, that was the banner on which we were rallying. So going into the conference, we went under that same banner, Church of His Majesty, Order of the Nyabingi. And the people told us, no, we cannot enter that conference. That's a statical conference. It's not for churches and so on. So, you know, so we couldn't enter. So then we had to rethink. Now, Bongo Spare and the brethren and them in Barbados had an organization, which is a registered organization
That
named
was
Africa
Africa Hall.
Hall.
Yes,
Yeah.
Africa Hall. Yes, I.
So we had to use the credentials of Africa Hall to participate within the conference. You know? So at the end of the conference, Bongo Watu said to I and I, when we return to our communities, make sure we go and establish registered organizations like the Africa Hall so that we could take this work further, you know? And that is what, you know, really led us to really register, even when we set up the CRO, that we say it had to be registered. And then we know the fight which we went through, you know? Now, the CRO is a statical institution. It's not a church as such. Now, in St. Lucia, the Nyabingi House, within the Nyabingi House, we had the working committee. Right now, the working committee has been registered on behalf of the Nyabingi House.
Okay.
You know? So, brethren, because there was a petition coming against, you know, registering the house and all them kind of things there, you know. I mean, brethren coming from the background of, from the beginning, where Fireborn organization and all them kind of things, you know. So now is the time where, as Rastafari, you know, we need to make that quantum leap, you know, because brethren feel that by registering the organization, as though we join in Babylon, we siding with Babylon. No, that's far from the truth, you know. The registration, all it does is just, I mean, just like the Bible says, give unto Caesar what is Caesar. The government of the day, they run the country. So within the country, they want to know exactly all what is happening within the country. So there are companies, business companies, there are faith-based organizations, or what we would call churches, and so on, denominations, etc. You know, so it's some kind of like some regulatory process which the government or whichever government have to establish within the country, where we have to just follow by, you know. All it would require is that probably at the end of every year, you have to probably give a financial report of whatever financial activities you are engaged with, you know, send your annual report, you know, to the registrar so that they could see that you operating above board. You know, that have nothing to do with our integrity to see whether we sell out or anything. So we continue to maintain our integrity as Rastafari. Our principles remain the same. Nothing changes. You know, so I would just want brethren and sistren to be more open-minded and realize that that is the way we need to go.
Also,
because we must learn from what happened in Shashamani.
yes.
Yes. It's because the tabernacle was not registered in Shashamani. It went through what it went through there.
That is true.
The JRDC is registered. The Bobo Shanti is registered up there. It's the Nyabingi that is not. So now is the time we need to make those changes, you know.
His Majesty was a businessman who also owned registered businesses in Ethiopia. He had trusts, the Haile Selassie Prize Trust, which was also an entity. So His Majesty used several different entities in order to develop Ethiopia. So those who are against registration are not consistent with the teachings of His Majesty. This is a doctrine that comes from a vain imagination. We have to
Right.
call it out as it is, because we have allowed detractors to slow the progress of Rastafari, because we need to have institutions and organizations in order to conduct business, in order to build the economic base. There are some that would have us stay in poverty, and not be able to to conduct business internationally and to move assets across borders and these things, which once you become across borders, you need entities, you need registered entities, you need liability protection, because if brethren are operating without registration, then you're open to be sued. People can come and take your house, come and take your car, all of these things. I'm an attorney, so I'm going to give it to the eye from a legal aspect. And it is very frustrating when we see brethren fighting against registration. Now, I don't think that the theocracy reign out of the Nyabingi should be registered, but the theocracy reign out of the Nyabingi can create vehicles that are registered under different
Yes,
names
like
that
I said, the working committee within the Nyabingi
exactly,
house was
exactly.
registered. Yeah.
Exactly. So you have vehicles that are controlled by the Nyabingi, that are registered, that are operating on behalf of the Nyabingi.
Of
That
the
is,
Bingi house.
you know what
Yeah.
I mean. That is how I really see it. That is an approach that can do results. So we have to dismiss ignorance. And remember, when His Majesty was developing Ethiopia, he was opposed by the nobles. When he
Give
first
thanks.
started sending young
Yes, sir.
people to public school, there was a lot of opposition by the nobles, by the church itself,
Mm-hmm.
that didn't want, especially young girls going to school. They thought that they would be rebellious. They didn't want their youths going to school outside of the church system. His Majesty had to go and do house visits door to door to convince people to send their youths to school, to the first to the Farai McConnon School for boys, the Empress Menen School for girls. Empress Menen had to do the same. So when progress, comes on the horizon, there will be conservative forces that fight against these things. But in order to develop the nation, we have to change and we have to evolve. And we don't have to go outside the blueprint that has been set by His Imperial Majesty, that has a proven track record of results. And what I say is that when these detractors bring their opposition, we need to ask them, show us your resume, show us your results that you have achieved, brethren. And if not, we don't want to hear from the item. Because if you don't have a track record that can beat His Majesty, then you need to keep quiet and watch as the nation go forward. But we cannot continue to let ones with no track record of any accomplishments or achievements for the nation to govern how we move forward, as a family. So, it's a radical approach. However, we have to be radical right now because the time is dreadful. The inflation, the cost of living, all of these things are on the rise. Again, we're headed toward the cashless society. We have AI revolution on the horizon that is here. That's going to be displacing a lot of the working class
Yes.
jobs, creating new crises, new challenges. So we have to really, we cannot allow these minority of voices to stall the progress of the family. We have to be militant in moving forward. And if they cannot show an example that is higher than His Majesty, then they're going to have to sit down, because on the day when Rastafari get ready, them have to move.
Move.
You see me?
Yeah.
We have a question here. Should the Rastafari movement have its own government? Haile Selassie had a government. What would you say to that?
Well, as we say, the greater vision of the CRO is to see the fulfillment of the number one resolution of the 83 conference, which spoke of the establishment of a global sovereign Rastafari government. But then that is a process which, as I say, it starts from the bottom going up. You know, it's not to say you will see the government there, and you know, it has to start with those different legal organizations in the different territories, the different countries, like the CRO. You know, even because presently the CRO and the RCC, which is the Rastafari Continental Council in Africa, we've established a memorandum of understanding to work together.
Beautiful.
You know, so we would have liked to see like the RCC become the, you know, the all-inclusive umbrella organ for the Rastafari community on the mainland. We within the Caribbean, CRO, then in Europe, they are in UK, you know, in Asia, there's Rastafari in all those communities. So all of them need to organize, because what His Majesty said, you know, to the mission in 1961, organize, centralize, and come as one. Yeah. So that one would represent the Rastafari global government.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I love to hear that there's a form of
organize and centralize, meaning the different mansions, the different groupings, organize yourselves, then centralize, and then come as one.
give thanks. We're going to wrap up. We've been here almost 2 hours. Give thanks. If we'll take a couple of more questions. If there are any questions from the audience, we have 20 people watching live. Drop a comment or a question before we seal up. We have our elder Bongo Wisely, the chair of the Caribbean Ras Tafari Organization. I just learned that there's a formal MOU between the RCC and the CRO, which is the Rastafari Continental Congress. I'm very familiar with them. Big up Daddy Basco. We're going to have a representative on this platform as well very soon. So if you're not subscribed, if you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe to the Lion Voice channel here on YouTube. If you haven't figured it out yet, we are the front line. We're bringing all of the frontline soldiers to the Lion Voice because we want to control our narrative. Too often, people hear Rastafari, they're just looking at the artists, they're looking at the music, they think is reggae music, smoke a spliff, and have a nice time. But there are workers that are working for the bigger vision to fulfill the mission of repatriation, economic justice, liberation, the return of the great peoples of Africa into one, the ending of tribal war. All of this is happening behind the scenes. So this is the platform where we're going to be bringing all of those ones so you can hear from them directly, so the lions can tell their own story. This is a beautiful manifestation. Again, if you have any comments, we're going to be sealing up shortly. Put your comments, your questions in the chat. I want to thank all of the Lion Pride who have been here, who have been here for the 2 hours. I see all the Rastaman. I wouldn't mind if you could bring Monique, the actress, on your program, asking her about the state of the black mind and the black family. Sila Rastafari. Did I know that, Sistrin? Bongo Wisely, Monarch. Moniac.
No, I'm not too sure.
Okay, we're gonna have to do some searching on that one.
Actress.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do some searching and some research. I've never heard that name, but we can look and see if that person, you know, is willing to come on the platform. Give thanks for the reasoning. Dane Black, give thanks for the reasoning. Bless up, big up yourself, Dane Black. I hope you subscribe. This is just the beginning. We have some massive interviews, big things planned for the channel coming up. Again, this issue of repatriation, we're gonna keep on sounding the trumpet here on the Lion's Voice. We're not gonna let the issue die. We are going to continue. You're going to watch my own journey as I return to the continent. I will be bringing programming as I go back and forth between here and Ghana. We still have more Ghana content to upload. So again, make sure you're subscribed, like, share the content with your network so we can spread the word. I want to big up our sponsors, CMOS. I want to big up Ramia King Design, who these Islaful tumblers, you can put hot liquid in them. You feel nice, same way. And if you're a small business and you want to get in front of our audience, send us an email, Ask Lion Voice, and we hold on one moment, and we can see what opportunities are here. We have a question: does the Nyabingi still speak of theocracy government? Bongo Wisely?
Yes, yes, the theocracy government is still alive. Well, as you say, theocracy government means, well, a government which is governed by moral principles, you know? Yeah, as against the so-called democratic government where they have no moral values. They just do anything.
It goes with
Yeah,
the majority.
right. Yeah,
And there's
majority.
and really democracy is just like communism. It's never really been practiced because you always have families or aristocracy or oligarchy that control these societies, even though it's purported to be the government of the people. So these
Well,
are
the new definition for democracy now is that is the minority ruling over the majority, you know.
that is true. That is true because the
Yeah,
minority of gender has become the main agenda over everything else.
exactly.
So that is very, very true. But yes, theocracy reign, and we argue that Ethiopia under His Majesty was a theocratic government because Haile Selassie was the head of the government, and he, with supreme power, and he was given the constitution. So it's where the creator, the laws of the country cannot go outside of that. There's no separation between the church and the state. The laws of the country cannot go out of those moral authority, of the creator. So, I know Nyabingia's moral theocracy reign from that time till this time. And we know that that will never change. That is immutable, as we would say, in terms of that principle. So,
But
we're,
then I pray there,
yeah,
in terms of to make that theocracy government really functional, that's where land settlement comes
yes,
in, you know.
important, important.
Yeah,
Um,
I've heard reasoning about Pinnacle
yes.
being utilized, at least to start off that kind of a project,
Uh,
that would be good.
there is a lot of plans that will be rolled out shortly. The RMO has land acquisition and development, on its agenda. So I know you'll hear on this very channel a lot of efforts that are taking place. The Coral Garden Benevolent Society is already started to administer land. They have a home for the elderly. We'll have a representative to talk about what they have done, what they have been promised. So again, if you're not subscribed and you want to know what really is going on with the Rastafari family globally, this is the platform. We're also going to have some Pan-African content as well, here on the channel. We're reaching the 2 hour mark. Bongo Wisely, any final sound that I would love to address the family?
Yes, well, again, I want to give thanks, Bonsu, for the opportunity, to be on the Lions Talk, and for all those who've been listening. I give thanks for the opportunity. And well, as I say, the Rastafari movement, because since 1983, the blueprint for Rastafari unification was established,
Yes, I.
1983, out of those 22-point resolution. And today, 2023, how much progress have we made
Hmm.
thus far in terms of, the unification of Rastafari, you know? So it's an opportunity for us to really wake up, just as we see in Africa, the African youths waking up now to derail the colonial masters. We as Rastafari need to wake up and put aside those divisions which divide us, Bingi, Bobo, 12 tribe, whatever. It's time for us to see the need to come as one Rastafari, because we chant the anthem every day. Humanity is pleading one Rastafari for us all.
God.
So how can we make that functional? Not just a talk. It have to be a reality.
Yes, I.
Yeah.
And it's
So
happening. It's
the
happening.
level of tolerance and goodwill towards one another is very important.
And I
If
want to
that
reiterate that it's
one,
happening, Bongo Wisely, and we have to spread the good news that it's happening. It may not be happening on the timetable that we would like, which is
truly,
immediately, but it's happening. So
but
again,
sure.
let the people know how they can contact the I, give the contact information for the resettlement website, give all of those information one more time.
I'm saying. Yes, for in terms of the RSAP project, the website address is www.reparationsforsettlement.net. In terms of I myself, Bongo Wisely, as the chairman of the Caribbean Ras Tafari Organization, my email address is bongowisely_tafari at yahoo.co.uk. My telephone number is 1758, which is the area code 720 6071. That's how one could reach me. One could reach me also on Facebook, Messenger, on social media, Bongo Wisely. As long as you put in Bongo Wisely,
Yes, I.
you
One
should
Bongo
get.
Wisely. And
Yes,
don't
sir.
call the elder with no foolishness. Please, Lion Pride, don't call the elder with no foolishness. Give out him number on the air that show you the clean hands and the pure heart the elder have. Don't call him with no ray and stupidness. Please. But give thanks once
Upfulness,
again.
upful
Yes,
consciousness.
hopefulness and give thanks once again sincerely from the Lion Voice family and the Lion Voice Network. This is just part one. We're going to bring the eye forward. We'll do panel discussions. We'll bring the eye forward. I have to come to St. Lucia so I can sit down and we do an extended
Yeah.
interview where we can put in the pictures and tell the eye story like how we do on Lion Talk, which is different than Lion Talk Live. So I look forward to coming to St. Lucia to do a proper sit down interview with the I, where I and I can be in the same place. And I look forward to all of the works that the I will continue to share here on the Lion Voice platform. And why, do you may ask, would Bongo Wisely share all of this information on the Lion Voice Network? It's because the time has come for the Lions to tell our own story. And this is the Lion Voice.
Rastafari. Perfect love.
Perfect
Love.
love. Isis. Yes, Lion Voice. Lion Voice. Yeah.
True.
Yes, family. Rastafari live and
Yeah,
reign.
man. Give
I,
thanks.
I,
Always. Rastafari.
yes,
Blessed.
I.
True. Mhm.
and tell the world who Queen Omega is. This is the lion's voice.
Well, lion voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion voice.